Welcome to The Curiosity Solution. I'm your host, Beverly Beal. Join us as we explore the science of curiosity, share stories of people who've used curiosity to improve their lives, and maybe inspire some aha moments along the way. Hello, everybody. My name is Beverly Beal. I'm your host for today. I cannot even believe my good fortune that I get to have Dr. Judy Tsafrir as part of my podcast. I've been following Dr. Tsafrir's work on Instagram and just been completely inspired by her. And then she mentioned that she had a book. And of course, I had to order it right away. And I am absolutely loving everything about it. And I know I needed to share that with anybody who watches or listens to this podcast. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Dr. Judy. Do you prefer just Judy or Dr. Judy?
You can call me
Dr.
Judy.
Tsafrir. Okay, just wanted to make sure. For people who may not be familiar with you, I'm just going to kind of do a couple little highlights of things that I've gleaned both from the book, from your website, and just, doing a little background check. She's got her own podcast, Two Psychiatrists Talking. I can't wait to dip my toe into that and listen. She's been featured on Gaia. She's has articles in Psychology Today. She's been on many other podcasts, all based on her website. Obviously, she's an author. You're working on, I keep talking about you on the third person, and you're right here. But what I am the most inspired about is how you went from being very much enmeshed in the Western medical world and realized, wow, you know what? We have to expand our knowledge and our understanding of how the human experience is not just limited to what Western medicine has to offer. Go ahead, and I'd love to talk to you about what was the period of curiosity. What was was there one crystallizing moment that helped you make that, not really a paradigm shift, but I guess it kind of is, but helped to start making you look a little bit more at why some people were not improving with just the psychology aspect and needed a little bit more?
Okay, so I have a lot of different things to say already from what you said. And first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity and honor of being on your show. That podcast, Two Holistic Psychiatrists Talking, or Two Psychiatrists Talking, is really quite old. I don't know, it must have been like before the pandemic, I think, that we made any episodes. So that's old.
Wow, okay.
And you describe me as enmeshed in the conventional medical world. I mean, I am conventionally trained. I have conventional affiliations in terms of academic affiliation, certifications, but I would never have described myself as enmeshed in that world.
Okay.
First of all, just being a psychiatrist who's a psychoanalyst is already something quite unusual. That was the bulk of the way I practiced before I started to integrate different holistic modalities into my work. And psychoanalysis is like a talking methodology, and most psychiatrists are primarily psychopharmacologists. And also, my patients did well with with my previous approach, but in terms of a crystallizing moment, I don't know if it was a moment, but it was a period of time when there were a confluence of losses in my life, with both my parents dying within 3 months of one another, and my marriage ending when I had 3 small children. I was 49 at the time, and I'm now almost 70. And I consulted a professional astrologer for the first time because it was just like, wow, what is happening? And it's not as odd as it might sound, because my dad was very interested in astrology, but he was also a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst and a professor of psychiatry at the University of Pittsburgh. He was very much in the closet and fearful for his reputation if anyone would know about his love and passion for astrology. So it was something very private, but it was something that I grew up with. It was in the atmosphere, and there were these
Mm.
magazines around the house, Dell Horoscope, and he would talk in this very kind of ominous way about eclipses coming. And so it was just sort of part of my, like what I grew up with. So, but I had never consulted a professional astrologer myself until, I was in that really intense period of loss and grief. And I was so amazed by my conversation with her and how she could have so much insight into me and have so much to say just by looking at my horoscope and knowing nothing about me otherwise, that I was just intrigued and went back to see her multiple times to look at the birth charts of my children and other important people in my life. And that went over a course of a couple of years that I kept returning to look at more charts, and finally decided, hey, I'd really like to learn to do this myself. And so then I apprenticed myself first to a famous astrologer named Stephen Forrest, and then to a second one, Maurice Fernandez. And that was like the beginning of integrating different kinds of approaches and looking at healing through different lenses. And when you think about it, when you are able to perceive the reality of astrology and the way in which the movements of the heavens so clearly correlate with the way a person is in their life on Earth and what the events in the world, you know that there's just much more going on than our 3D reality. And
Mm-hmm.
so that just is already like a huge paradigm shift if you accept the reality of astrology, which is so experiential when you kind of understand it and know how to look at it. So then that began for me an exploration, adding all kinds of different things to what I did in my practice, including training in shamanism and training in functional medicine and training in energy healing. And every time I would learn about something new, I would kind of bring it into my practice and use it with my patients. And everyone was always kind of willing to experiment with me. And so then when I wrote my book, it was all about kind of that journey, as well as placing it in the context of the astrology that is going on currently, which is really so extraordinary and transformative.
It's a little extreme, isn't it?
Truly, truly unprecedented.
So you also write in the book about a trip to Africa that you made and white lions, and I love how you began the book with your experience of seeing this white lion
Mm-hmm.
and really connecting with the energy of that animal, and then tying it in at the very end with some more about that whole experience, which really moved me because often people forget that nature is always talking to us. And and spirit guides, spirit animals, that is a very, very powerful thing if you allow it to be. I think too many times people logic their way out of enlightenment. Can you say some more for those who have not yet gotten your book about what this white lion meant to you? Because I'm super curious about that. Again, this whole podcast is about curiosity.
So there's a myth about the white lions in the African, it's like the Shangan shaman tradition. And the idea was that white lions are star beings. They come from another star system, and they came to Earth during the Ice Age, when people were starving and when humanity was in a lot of distress and in survival mode. And they taught them to hunt, and they helped them And then they left again. They said they wouldn't be back unless there was a need. And so it was like starting, I think maybe in the 30s or 40s, these animals started to be born again. And
Mm.
they're not albino. They're really just another, like another type of lion, and they're white. And the reason that they've returned is that we're in so much trouble again. And like their message to us is that we need to wake up to the fact that we are part of nature and not separate from nature. And if we don't do that, then it's not going to go well for us. And so they are bringing that message, and they're kind of like these sacred beings. And
When I
so,
was, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was there on a trip with, like, it was like a spiritual journey to visit these lions, and just encountering them and hearing them roar and being in their presence was very magical. And the meaning of the myth and their significance was very moving to me, and felt very aligned with how I see things myself.
When I was still living in North Dallas, I'm in Austin now. There was a white buffalo calf that was born
Oh,
not too
wow. See,
far.
that's the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
yeah, sacred animals.
And I was able to go with some friends, and obviously we're not getting terribly close, but just being able to see the little baby and know that it certainly wasn't the first nor the last that will be born, but that they had started to show up again
Yes,
in more
yeah,
frequency.
yes, 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 it's true.
I'm a big believer in that as we are evolving, we notice those kind of things more, and it becomes a connecting point, and helps others, other like-minded souls find each other, and that then simply amplifies the energetic, really the energetic signature of hope.
I love that, the energetic signature of hope. Yeah, I think the universe is always whispering to us. It's just a matter of attuning and listening and being aware of the message and guidance that we're getting.
100%. And it is, that's why it's so difficult, I think, these days for many people to turn off the noise, or to tune it out in order to hear that whisper.
Right, right.
In my opinion, I think that's one of the reasons why you have become so noticeable, I suppose, and so maybe such a powerful voice, at least on Instagram, another social media, I'm sure, but especially there because of how your delivery is. You come from a state of calmness and wisdom and groundedness, and that doesn't necessarily line up with everybody. A lot of these other people that are like, "Oh, we got to do this. Oh my God, this is happening. The sky is falling." And you're like, "Well, yeah, and here's what else we can do, and here's how you can stay grounded, and how you can,
The
make
funny
things."
thing is that I didn't even have an Instagram before I started my channel.
Really?
No, I'm not like a social media person. Like I don't spend time on social media except, I'll look for things to put on my story to share
Mhm.
that people would like. But otherwise, I do not spend time on social media. And I think that made it so that I didn't know what the conventions really were. Like it was it's
But
just,
you showed up. So that's the thing I loved, is that you literally just showed up as yourself. It's like, okay, who cares what is popular, what other people are doing? You're just
I
there.
showed it. I have children I had babies very late. And so I have children that are still in their 20s. And so when I showed them my initial reels, they're like, Mom, like, you need to be like more enthusiastic. You need to be like more energetic. And I was working with a social media person who was like posting my things for me and making captions and doing that kind of administrative stuff. And I told her what my kids had said, and she said, absolutely not. She said, it's not sustainable. You just have to be yourself.
Yes,
Mhm.
100%. And
Mhm.
I'm very glad that you followed your agent's advice and not your kids. I'm sure your children are wonderful, but so one of the things that I thought, actually, there were a couple of things that I really want to highlight from your book. Again, I really want people to get this. I'm going to just put this up here, so in case people want to look for this, if they're seeing this on video, it is called Sacred Psychiatry, um, bridging the personal and transpersonal to transform health and consciousness. And as I was so I'm as a feng shui consultant, I began that journey after I had a breast cancer diagnosis very young. I was only 36. My children were 5 and 7. It was a complete shock to me. No genetic predisposition. It just, well, hello. But because of that, it helped me reimagine my life. So just like you, after the loss of your parents, and the divorce from your children's father, you began that exploration of like, well, okay, what else am I not seeing? How can I, like, and with the astrology, mine was a friend gave me a book on feng shui, and that's what shifted everything. That was my end of cancer party gift, because of course we have to throw a party for everything in my household. Let's celebrate. It's all about, let's celebrate even the smallest things.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But that's when I started realizing, oh my gosh, so not only is nature trying to talk to us, but your house is speaking to you. And where clutter was happening, that was whatever segment of your house was, that's where the inner world was also in chaos. But since that moment, I've also expanded like you, into essential oils. And in your book, though, you also talked about flower essences and even talk about how you can make your own. And that blew my mind.
Yeah, that's really a fun thing to do.
Well, to be able to make flower essences from the land around you, it never even occurred to me that was possible. And so for that alone, I just want to say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you had one specifically in there, and I'm trying to remember now which one it was, but there was a particular flower essence that you were recommending for people who are experiencing a lot of stress about our global situation. And I was looking for that. Do you remember what the name of that, which specific one that was that you, here, I can look it up because I have it right here. It's going to make me sad. But it was, I think one that you can actually purchase.
You can purchase all of them.
Yeah, but there was one specific one. And you know what? When I find it, I'll add it to the show notes. So that unless, you're selling.
I'm trying to think of different things, like white chestnut is like for like obsession, like if you're like ruminating about, fearfully ruminating, that can be helpful for that.
Yeah, that might be it. But Scotch broom, I wrote it down.
Scotch broom.
That's the one that, at least in the book, you had mentioned that one.
I can't remember the properties of how that works. If does it create optimism?
Let me look at that website again. It was, optimism, encourages optimism.
Yeah.
And
I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen. And it really makes sense to, as much as possible, to hold the highest possible vibration. And that's where what I love what you said, that you find every occasion to celebrate,
Well, I actually have a little note that I now have on my monitor, on my refrigerator, in my car, to remind me. This is a little phrase that I use on a regular basis. What if I existed in an alternative reality where blank was possible? And by asking that question, it gives that, it kind of helps the logical mind relax a little bit, because you're just playing now in your right brain. And your right brain can come up with all kinds of amazing things, while the left brain, the left brain, that logical brain is like, no, but this is what is happening. This is the my energy journey was so odd for me because again, I have a double Virgo. I'm a Virgo sun and a Virgo rising, but I have that Aquarius moon that
Okay.
likes to go and, mix things up. But boy, that Virgo is strong. So when I've had to suspend disbelief so much these days. When you spoke about, being raised by parents who had family members that that perished during the Holocaust, and that a lot of that disconnection between, that I felt like so my parents grew up in the Depression, and the tangible holding on to things was very real, and it didn't really allow for a lot of the imagination of what could be possible. Knowing that you also had kind of had some of that experience that you talked about in your book, I really thought it was very powerful that you and your children practiced what you have down there as the rose, thorn, and bud. I think, I have actually heard it also referred to as weed, seed, and flower.
Oh, that's although weeds, let's not throw shade on weeds.
Well, exactly. And that's why I think I'm going to go back to the rose, thorn, and bud, because, can you go ahead and explain, so to those who are listening, how your version of that?
Okay. So when my kids were still living at home when they were younger, at the dinner table, like a way of connecting and learning about what was going on in each other's lives, we would play this game, Rose, Thorn, and Bud. And it's also like, I've also done it like at a dinner party. That's also like a wonderful thing to do at a dinner party with people who don't maybe know each other that well, or even if they do, So Rose is something in your life that's going on that you're happy about. And thorn is something that you're not happy about, something that is troubling you or it's not what you wish for. And bud is something you're looking forward to, and it really is kind of wonderful. I mean, sometimes when kids are teenagers, they, will just say something that is like, oh, I'm looking forward to school vacation, like nothing that is that meaningful or that is like, of course you are, but if people are like genuinely sharing themselves, it's really, really meaningful.
We've actually used that even in like networking groups,
Yeah.
because my favorite groups that I belong to honor the personal life as well as the business life, because the personal impacts the professional and vice versa.
Yeah.
So if there's something that is not working in the personal life, then it distracts from, how you're approaching your business.
Holistic, right?
Holistic, exactly.
Everything is
Yeah. And so like when I'm working with my clients and they're talking about what's happening, I can direct them to, okay, well, which part of your home is connected to this challenge you're having, outside of the home. How can we use your physical space to support you while you're addressing these other issues? That's kind of how I'm, again, looking at feng shui, and not necessarily the same way that other people do. But I also use the essential oils a lot for space clearing, for, just visualizing that, this scent, because that's that olfactory piece that can connect to memories and when you have a certain scent in your room, it helps to ground you and make it so that you can, So
sounds like a wonderful offering that you are.
Thank you. I enjoy it so much. It has been incredibly positive for me and for, those that I talk with about it. But I also want to come back around to, again, some of the other topics that you discussed in your book. And I really appreciated that you are bringing in food as something to use to address, that you can be more holistic in that, as well as, like mold toxicity. I can't tell you how many of my friends have been dealing with moldy homes. And
So hazardous.
yes. And I worked with one client who, as she's healing from mold toxicity and trying to get pregnant, we had to go through some, pretty intense visualizations around past life birth trauma, all kinds of different things, and just using the guided visualizations. But I think that is going to be the frontier, is helping people understand why mold toxicity is so bad, because it is a systemic issue.
Right. Well, you brought up two different things. One is the food thing, right?
Yeah, but if you're eating moldy food, that's a problem too. So that's why I kind of tied them together.
Like my experience is more that the real problem with mold is through inhalation, much more than food. Much more.
Okay.
And people don't fully appreciate the impact that what they're eating is having upon them. I mean, I could talk about this for so long because, it has to do with the quality of the food, like food that is, grown in Mexico and picked when it's unripe and put on a plane and packaged in plastic and put on the grocery store shelf for weeks before it's purchased and consumed is so different than something that you buy at the farmer's market and eat when its energy is like very full and ripe. And people don't bless their food. They don't give thanks for their food before they eat it. The Western approach to food is like in terms of like macronutrient percentages, how much, carbohydrate does it have versus protein versus, what are the specific vitamins in it, rather than like different energetic qualities of food, that certain foods are warming, certain foods are cooling. Eating seasonally, in so many wisdom traditions, like there's certain foods that are more appropriate to eat in the winter and some in the summer. And in our nutritional approach, it's like the same diet 365 days a year. And also, now this is real, just plain Western medicine. Like many people are consuming too many carbohydrates, and it's really their blood sugar is elevated, and that causes inflammation and insulin resistance and lowers mood and decreases energy. And then there are many people who have food intolerances that they haven't identified. And the two most common culprits are gluten and dairy. And there are people that when they eliminate those two foods from their life, they all of a sudden their insomnia clears up, their anxiety decreases. People can have like very intense food intolerances that are causing psychiatric symptoms. So
100% agree. I as part of my continued efforts to be as healthy as I can as I age, I did a genomics test where they do the cheek swab and test for like 500 different points. And that's where I discovered that eating gluten overproduced glutamate, which for me was showing up as increased anxiety, but completely decreased focus. I thought that, I do have a little bit of a tendency towards ADHD, but part of that is because I just am insanely curious and I like to follow the shiny object. Is that ADHD? I don't know. Maybe not. What I did, rather than cutting it out, I have an acupuncturist here in Austin who is also trained in a protocol called Advanced Allergy Therapeutics, and it's frequency medicine.
Familiar with that.
I love it. I had her treat me for that. I can have for the gluten sensitivity. I did the avoiding it for 24 hours, and I can have a slice of bread now and still be able to focus. I don't have to go take a nap. I don't have to lose an hour plus of time uh, to, as my body kind of recalibrates.
Mhm.
And so for me, that's been incredibly effective.
Mhm.
But yeah, I thought that was, I think the more people that you're talking about, eating too many carbohydrates, like we're both of the ages where it's like, okay, more protein, more protein. It's like, I can't put any more protein into my body. Sometimes it feels, but anyway, I loved how you also were talking about how, so you talked about a therapy here called accelerated resolution therapy. And I'm familiar with the EMDR, the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Can
Mhm.
you share with the people who are listening here, what you feel is the better use of either of these in
Well,
their health journey?
like for some people with EMDR, it really stirs them up. Like it can be re-traumatizing, just the process of it, because they're really um, getting back into it and vocalizing about it and talking about it. Whereas the accelerated resolution therapy, it's totally like internal, and they're not sharing anything out loud necessarily if they don't want to. And it's
Mm,
also there's this process of replacing traumatic images with imaginary scenarios that would be like a good outcome. And people very often, leave the office like smiling, like they feel uplifted. And it's different. It's different than EMDR, even though they both are making use of the eye movements.
okay. All right. So that's what I wanted to, I appreciate you, being a little bit more clarifying on that, because I plan on doing a little deeper dive into that, because I think that sounds very interesting. I've gotten some really good use out of EMDR. In fact, the first time I was even introduced to it was, again, I mentioned my dad. Well, I probably didn't mention, but he actually had been overseas in World War II and had experienced, again, some of the wartime trauma coming back home. It wasn't until 50 plus years after the fact that he went to the VA to get some help, and they were using EMDR to help.
It can be quite helpful. I mean, also, like psychedelic medicine can be very helpful for trauma.
Well, perfect segue. I was about to ask you. So, you talked about. I saw on your website that you have a piece on your header for ketamine
Yeah.
therapies, but you also mentioned some of the other modalities, some of the other
Right.
options.
And those are not legal, so I can't
Correct.
offer those in my practice. But people can go to Mexico or to Costa Rica, or even like in Oregon, I think there's possibility. And there's people who work underground, who offer it.
Yeah.
And very, very, very helpful. And I imagine that things are going to change. Like it's people are recognizing that this is like so far superior to like antidepressants, and it just really can be a game changer for people.
I know here in Texas, the former governor, Rick Perry, is very, very strongly advocating for ibogaine.
Yeah, yeah,
Ibogaine,
yeah.
ibogaine, is
I
it
began.
ibogaine or ibogaine?
I began. I think.
Ibogaine, yeah.
Hmm.
And and I know that I've had several friends who have gone through that experience in Mexico and have really come back just
Yeah,
transformed.
it's a very yeah. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's apparently like really like a very grueling experience, but so beneficial.
Well, one of the things that that my friend was telling me about is the fact that it does need to be done in a hospital setting, because there is a potential for some cardiac issues to come up.
Exactly. There was a piece just recently in the New York Times. A reporter went to one of these treatment centers in Mexico. He had a lot of childhood trauma from like an abusive sibling. And he described the whole experience in great detail. And like he was hooked up to a cardiac monitor during the whole
Yeah. And I think that is something that again, I've also had lots of people who've gone to Peru or various other places for ayahuasca.
Mhm.
Um, I have not yet, mostly because I get some pretty intense visualizations just when I'm taking a bath in Epsom salts. But I have a friend who has a company. They have an organic hemp farm, and she has a bath salt combination with essential oils and I think different sea salts in there, plus the CBD compounds, and that for whatever reason is enough for me.
Oh,
Uh,
good.
but it has been. I'll also have that link in the show notes. But some of the experiences that others have had, it just it just absolutely. I would love that, but there's a part of me that has yet to have myself hasn't said yes to it just yet.
But do you feel like you need it? Like, do you feel like it would be like something there's like this man was like he just couldn't experience joy. He was so,
Mm.
I don't know, still living under the shadow of his brother abusing him.
Maybe that's what it is. I haven't it's for me, it would be more of just a curiosity. It'd be, like, okay, well, let me go check some things out. What can I
Yeah.
do? But yeah, so no, I have not felt that calling. And
Like I feel like it, I mean, maybe curiosity is a good enough motivation, but to me it seems like, and what I didn't like about what I heard about what he described there is that it didn't seem like they had any attention paid to the sacred dimension of that medicine. Like there was
Mm.
no, it was just sort of medicalized. It was extremely helpful. But I really like these medicines to be used in a kind of ceremonial way and with a lot of appreciation of kind of the gifts from the ancestors and the medicine itself. And it wasn't like that. It was just kind of the medical model.
Well, it sounds to me like what happens a lot of times here in the Western world, everything gets put into the logical mind. It gets logicked to death in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And then like you said, you forget that there is that other component. There's that expansiveness of that spiritual realm. If I were to do ayahuasca, I would go to Peru.
Mm-hmm.
I would do it in context with the indigenous methodologies,
Mm-hmm.
um, because I do think there are many people who can take that intention and bring it with them, but there's always a little bit of something that gets lost in translation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but I love that that you also address that in this book, because there are people who cannot quite shift and they need just that extra little help.
Right. Right.
And
It's extraordinarily helpful for some people.
have you
Game
been
changer.
yeah, yeah. Have you listened to the Telepathy Tapes podcast?
I've listened to some of it. No, I haven't
Oh,
listened to everything, but I'm aware of it.
yeah. The second season of it is when they also start talking about um, just having plants talking to certain people.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that is they do talk about psychedelics in that, and how that all kind of even came to being. It's because the plants were communicating with the shamans.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do think that, like, I know whenever I'm going to a garden center, of course I'm looking for things that are going to survive the critters that live around my area. But there are definitely times when a plant will say, me. I'm like, okay, just, I will bring you home, but I'm just going to let you know you may not last real long in my household, but for that time that you are there, it's going to be glorious. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because that was something, as far as, again, communicating with nature, and especially with the flower and essences that that you spoke of. I'm going to kind of circle back to that. When you're making your own flower essence tinctures, how do you choose which ones?
I'll be like walking and I'll see that there's a certain plant growing that attracts my attention. And then I
Okay.
have an app on my phone that's called Picture This. And
Okay.
take a picture of it and then it tells me what it is, and then I'll look up the metaphysical properties of it. And then I'll say, oh, like that would be helpful, and so then I will harvest some and make the flower essence.
That's super cool.
It's very,
I love it. But see, again, it caught your attention. So
yeah,
it
yeah,
spoke to you in a way,
yeah, yeah,
which
yeah. And you sort of follow the breadcrumbs, like, I mean, I start every day with asking for guidance. And so I feel as though, even though like I don't hear my spirit guides or ancestors talking to me, I feel like pretty much guided all the time. And so I
mm,
trust that, what is drawing my attention or what I end up doing is somehow that I'm being led to it.
I really resonate with that as well. So that kind of gets me to some of the questions that I like to ask a lot of my guests, and it's more about like curiosity. Is this guidance and curiosity, do they manifest in your body about the same, or is it slightly different?
I don't really know. I don't really know. I mean, the curiosity, like there's a sort of level of like excitement there.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the guidance might feel more quiet than that.
Mm.
I don't know.
I think actually that's a very good description because, and again, I wanted to, because that's kind of how it is for me as well. The curiosity has a more of an effervescent feel
Mm-hmm,
in
mm-hmm.
my system, but
Yeah.
the guidance always to me feels it's quieter, but it's more grounded,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like this gentle pull. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like a gentle tug.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
Do you?
curiosity is definitely like it's definitely activating.
Yeah, yeah. Do you do anything? Because I did not notice anything in the book about muscle testing or energy testing.
No,
Do you
I
do
don't.
any?
I have not. I mean, I think I've been like trained in it like 3 or 4 times, but I never have felt confident about my abilities in that regard. Like the trusting myself that what I get is meaningful. I do
Mm,
use a pendulum, and I do trust my pendulum. Um, and so I guess, I could use I mean, that's not the way I work with patients. I don't do muscle testing on them. I use the
well,
pendulum myself in my own life.
right. Well, and I use so that's funny. I'm the exact opposite. I trust my muscle testing because I also use the just like one hand, and so I have one finger is the control and the other is the test. And when I am choosing essential oils for the space clearings, that's I'm putting my energy into the different bottles, and whatever one it lands on, it's like okay, that one, and then I
I
add
just do it. I just do it intuitively, like
okay,
I'll look at like a list of things and then I'll know that it's that one, and I
right.
don't test it, but I just feel like I know.
No, but that is an energy test. That is simply just your internal thing, your
Right. It's
internal test.
just like clair cognizance. It's not
Yeah.
like muscle testing.
Well, yeah. I,
Mhm.
so yeah, but there is that inner knowing that it
Mhm.
is that, not, I think that is a good definition.
And the
And
other thing is that every time before I'm doing like some kind of healing session or like an astrology reading, I'll access the Akashic records and I
mm,
will say a prayer and I will, ask for guidance, and then I will have confidence that what I'm coming to is from the guides.
yeah.
Yeah.
When you are accessing the Akashic records, how far into them are you going? Or is it simply that you're opening the door for the knowledge to
Just opening the door
okay.
and asking for guidance, and then, like setting up that frame that the information that I am getting is from that.
Yeah. I wanted to clarify that because, again, sometimes when people are talking about the Akashic records, they're really going in deep and like pulling a lot of information. I'm like more like you, where when I'm working with someone, I want to know that, okay, we just need the information now. I don't have to have the whole library, and I trust the guides to bring me what is needed in that moment.
Yeah.
So that's great. Okay. Wow. I think we could probably talk for a whole lot longer, but we're starting to get towards the end of our time together. What kind of projects, and other than your book that you have available for sale, again, Sacred Psychiatry, available by Dr. Judy Tsafrir. Tell us more about some of the other projects that you have coming up.
Well, my project that I'm most excited about right now is an oracle deck that I'm working on creating. And that's a lot of fun. I'm doing the artwork myself and also creating the interpretations of the cards. And it's an 88 card deck with 4 suits that correspond to the elements. And the fire suit is the Hebrew letters that all have mystical meanings and correlate with the major arcana of the tarot. And then the earth element are animals and insects. And the air element are astrological bodies and points in space. And the water element are different kind of psychospiritual concepts and ideas. And
Yay!
I'm very excited about it and having a lot of fun with it. And so that and it's a big project, and I'm just really kind of at the beginning of it.
88 cards, 88 pieces of art, 88 of anything. That is a very big project. So I will continue to send good vibes to you as
Thank
you
you.
go down that journey. Now, before we started recording, you also had mentioned that there is a writing retreat or writer's workshop that you're going to be doing soon.
So I was invited to participate in a yoga retreat in Tulum in late September, early October. And I will be offering a writing workshop at that retreat for people who are interested in doing that. And I do offer writing workshops. Like right now, I have 2 writing workshops going that are online.
Okay.
And it's not like for writers. It's like anybody who writes is a writer. And so we write in response to prompts, and it's non-hierarchical. I write along with everybody else, and it's a wonderful method. It's called the Amherst Artists and Writers Method, and it's a beautiful practice.
Where can they find out about those workshops that you're doing? Can they still sign up?
I don't have any plans at the moment to start another series. We're at like session 5 of a series of 8.
Okay.
And I don't have any in the works, but I'll do it again. And when I do it, it'll be announced on Instagram or on my website.
Okay.
Yeah,
and I'll put links to both of those in the show notes so people can find it.
And there'll be information about the retreat in Tulum in Mexico on my Instagram and website.
Very good. That is exactly what people need to know, because inquiring minds like me. Well, again, Judy, thank you so much for everything, for being that calm voice that is really inspiring, grounding, and inspiration at the same time. Me personally, I believe that when humanity is at its best, we connect heaven and earth. We are the ones that are bringing the divinity down, but also offering the grounding up.
I love that. I love the co-creation with spirit and the collaboration, and realizing that, you know, we're in partnership with the divine, and the divine is in partnership with us.
And when we are at our best, we are the translators for these two amazing, you know, realms. And unfortunately, when we're at our worst, well, we're seeing a few examples of that right now. But I do have such great hope for the future, simply because of people like you in the world who are bringing that combination of both being inspirational and grounded at the same time, and in such a heart-centered way. So again, thank you so much. I look forward to all the other reels that you're going to be putting out.
Well, thank you so much, Beverly. It's been a very rich and meaningful conversation. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.